Well, it's a real honor to be here, and I want to thank you for asking me and having me here this afternoon. And then some special things will happen today. The first song we sang, I first heard in the 40s from the neighbor's radio. Listening to Armstrong was the name that came to my mind. There was a minister named Armstrong on the radio in the 40s. You remember him? And I heard it from her front, coming out her front door, song. And then when we just sang in the garden, that's my mother's favorite song, who's passed over, so I know she's with me today. And so thank you very much for all of that. What a gift. And I want to just say I really want you to appreciate this healing prayer, because that's what we do. Mack and I actually do remove obstructions from our mind body to restore perfect health, and that's what our healing's about. I found a little story I wanted to start out with today that I thought you might enjoy. One day, God was looking down at earth and saw all the rascally behavior that was going on. So he called one of his angels and sent the angel to earth for a time. And when he returned, he told God, yes, it's bad on earth. 95% are misbehaving and only 5% are not. God thought for a moment and said, maybe I'd better send down a second angel to get another opinion. So God called another angel, sent him to earth for a time, this time too. And when the angel returned, he went to God and said, it's true, the earth has declined to 95% are misbehaving, but 5% are being good. God wasn't pleased. So he decided to send out an email to the 5% who were being good, because he wanted to encourage them, give them a little something to help them keep going. Do you know what the email said?
No.
Okay, I was just wondering. I didn't get one either.
Good.
Laughter is the best medicine that we have. Okay. Well, I just wanted to help explain what healing is about in maybe a different way than what you've heard before. So if you're familiar with Abraham, who's channeled by Esther Hicks, she said, but you cannot continue to keep alive within you vibrational patterns of what you do not want and receive what you do want. That defies the law of attraction. So that's really what we're trying to do and help people, is to raise their vibrations into the Christ consciousness, the highest energy of unconditional love. So I first found the spiritual path because I was healing addictions. And I won't go into that story today, but that led me to learning how to meditate. And in the church I was raised as a child, you did not meditate. In fact, that was against the principles of that church. You weren't supposed to listen to that voice inside. I'm so grateful for finding spirituality where we do listen to the voices inside, and we share them even. So those are the answers I've been receiving over the years, and that's where my healing comes from. So when I got into this, I started teaching and writing about healing and the spiritual path. And I've taught in junior colleges and wellness centers right down here in Milton for a while. And actually started a PhD at the American Institute of Holistic Theology. And while I was taking the classes, I paid for the course and the books are on the shelf. And Mack was on a bicycle ride out of Port Townsend one day, and I'm sitting there. I'm the SAG driver, and the bicycle people were coming by, and I was to wait and make sure everybody was okay. They didn't need help. That's what the SAG driver does. And I'm sitting there with my books in my lap, and I can tell you where I was because these things you remember. I don't know why. I was at the corner of the Egg and I Road. Now, Mack knows where that is. And the voice said inside, you're not going to finish your PhD. You're going to put it on the back burner, and you're going to learn how to get experience in life in a relationship. And so I literally did decide that maybe that's what I needed to do, since I was told to do that. And while I was working on those classes, Sheila Kirkland had found that particular school, American Institute of Holistic Theology, and asked if there was somebody locally could speak at church, and that's how I found the spiritual church down at Puyallup. And while I was down there, I met David LeBaron. And Mack and I started going to his classes with Dr. Lang, and we went consistently for several years and sat in the basement. And we would go to all the programs that he had, the classes and the healings, and we received apports and all those kinds of things that he was so marvelously famous for. And I decided it was kind of time to start learning more about channeling, and I saw him individually for help. And he said I would channel Archangel Ariel. And then shortly after I started working with him, he passed, which I was sad to see. And then this camp had Reverend Lilac show up for classes several years back, and I took his program right here at camp. And he had us do some different exercises to see if we were inclined. And I seemed to pass, and he was very, very encouraging to me to proceed. And so Mack and I started having development classes, or not classes, we just sat and met and just sat and shared what we got. And Darcy was part of that. And so I started, Archangel Ariel did start showing up. I had a gatekeeper, which changed from my father in spirit to Martha today. And Mack was channeling and learning too. And while we were growing in our spiritual development and learning how to be more in tune and handle that, one day he was in his living room and there's this book on the floor. Where did this come from? It was like it had fallen off the bookcase. He'd never even seen it before. So he checked with David, and David said it was an apport. And the book was, Pranic Healing was the book, yay thick and it had been written by a master in the Philippines. And Mack knew he was to be a healer and started studying it very seriously. And that's what Mack does, is Pranic Healing, and it's a rearranging of your energy so that the obstructions are removed, and so you can have the flow of the energy flowing through you. And he's had some huge, tremendous experiences helping people, not only here at Camp Edgewood, but he does wonderful remote healing too. He's very sincere and conscientious about that. If people need the help or ask for the assistance, he's a very good healer. He's healed remotely a baby in, I don't know, remember what state, Wisconsin or something, that where pipe there had cancer, and people that have come to our group here have, one lady had been told she was going to die from her situation, and her story's in this book, if you've gotten that far in the book, and how she's still alive and well and kicking, and she was told she would not make it. So, you know, we've had some marvelous experiences helping people. I have basically what we're doing is based on some very important quotations that I've come across, and Edgar Casey is, of course, I guess you'd say a spiritual metaphysical type person who brought a lot of spiritual answers to us in the this most recent 100 years or so. And he said the Christ consciousness is the only source of healing for a physical or mental body. And what I've come to understand is the Christ consciousness is the highest, or fifth dimensional. It's not the highest, you go past 12 dimensions, but we're in third dimension. And as you raise your consciousness higher and higher, closer into the Christ consciousness, which is fifth dimension, and you can't not be, I mean, your sicknesses cannot exist in the truth of God and the wholeness and health and spirit of God. And the Christ consciousness can also be described as unconditional love. It can be described as being fearless or growing into maturity. When I faced my last fear, that's the picture I received that day with my gift from God, as I became fearless that day. So it's amazing how I know today you can raise your energy into that higher loving consciousness. And it's, in my case, I've healed a multitude, which I share in here, multitude of problems medically. But it's also about healing physical, medical, and emotional and spiritual obstructions. So Max works a lot with the physical obstructions that are causing if you're into Chinese medicine, you understand if the energy's blocked. That's what acupuncture does. It breaks the blockages. I use Qigong. In fact, Mack became, his doctor told him just this week he was his star patient because I've been doing Qigong on Mack, so for one of his medical conditions. And the doctor, when he first went back in, first time he was told what the problem was, went back in and it was resolving. And so they wouldn't do the procedure because he was doing better. And this last week he went in and the doctor says, "You're my star patient. It's back to normal." Mm-hmm. So, when we get the energy flowing through us, that's really, that's what it is. It's the flow of energy. Casey also said there are, in truth, no incurable conditions. And I truly believe that. If you are in that higher consciousness of unconditional love, there's no illness, period, because, it's perfection. It's the perfect love of God. So you can't be sick when you're having your consciousness there. And in my book, I had to substitute a chart that I found and have to make my own. But this is like the stairway to heaven or the steps to heaven or Jacob's ladder if you refer to the Bible. But as you go up the consciousness, out of the fear, the guilt, the shame, all the problems that we've had, and move your consciousness, your thinking energy into higher realms, you do move up into what some people call heaven on earth. It's already there around us. It's just the obstructions that are keeping us from accessing it. So, and you mentioned in the other room, AA, they have a book called Alcoholics Anonymous. And in there they say, when the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. And that's been very truthful to me. The more I meditate, the more I'm in a higher consciousness, asking for the obstructions to be released. And that's what this book's about. It has the details and the steps of identifying the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual obstructions, and the steps and procedures you can take to actually release them and replace them with the love and grace of God. And in fact, the first time we were camping down at Death Valley, and I was meditating, and the first time I felt grace from head to toe, it was amazing. So, these things really work if you actually apply it. And of course, the ultimate quotation is from the Bible, "If any man be in Christ, he is a new creature." And my understanding today is that in our third dimensional planet, we have all these voices in our head. Most people call it the ego, edging God out. And all those voices and chatter, all the emotional negativity behaviors, whatever communications, relationships we have, this is where our thoughts are. This is what's going on. And when you move out of this thinking, out of third dimensional, fearful-based thinking, into the love of your heart, and you open up your heart because it's finally safe to receive. I came from a really, really negative upbringing, dysfunctional, abusive. I won't go into the details if it's in my book. But when you are open to it, and so that we have to release the obstacles if we're going to receive. So people can, say, well, we had several people from Seattle one time to the healing, and they all sat there and said, "I want to be enlightened," just like it happens overnight. And Mack and I just kind of laughed and shook our heads. They don't get it, because it's a process. And as you release what you don't want for what you do want, as we release the negativity, it's like peeling the onion. And what's left is the love of God. So we want to get rid of what we don't want in the first place so we can have what we really want. And to heal is to make happy is a quote from A Course in Miracles. And when we're healing, we're releasing the ego, the edging God out, so we can actually merge God back in. That was all. We were created in that, and we can merge back into it. We're the prodigal son returning home. We were created healthy, whole. We are whole spirits. But whatever past situations in your life has splintered off your soul, that can come back in love. And so when you forgive others, and when you stay in the present, and you're loving yourself, as he mentioned, and you're doing those things, then your life can be transformed. The problem is our society teaches us to stay in our left brain. And if you're going to have intuition, if you're going to have connection spiritually, that's right-brained. And of course, the perfect thing is coming into balance. If you can have your thinking come from God, but you're also logical too. There's nothing wrong with logic. It's putting it in the right proportion and balance so that it works together, rather than the logic being the force that you want to think of first. You want to come from love first, and then what's the next logical thing to do. So as we move into higher consciousness, it actually removes the illness. The love of God will replace. It's like walking into a dark room and you're turning on the light, and the light will dispel the darkness. Where is it? So your illnesses can dissipate, and it's your cooperation with it that helps it make it even faster. And it's as quickly as you are into accepting. Just this morning I came into an understanding of something I had never thought about. I've done a lot of 30 years of releasing all kinds of negativity in my life. I've had lots to release. And there was still something I hadn't identified, and it's my denial. I didn't realize it was even there. So we have to look at what's not necessarily in front of our face, but what is hidden. What are you still not aware of that's causing trouble? Because it's what you don't know about yourself is what runs your life. The more you bring it to the surface, to the light, then you can become aware, and it can change. And that's what this book is about. And if you need encouragement to get to the place where you can look at yourself and say, what is still going on with me? This is a book I just finished. It just came out last week, to encourage people and give them enthusiasm and support and answers for moving forward and looking at those things, because denial is not a river in Egypt. And I'm still finding things in my life, even though I've done a lot of work with this over the years. I'm still finding out where did this lower back pain come from. Well, I found out this morning some things I still need to release, still carrying the burdens financially of the past in my life from my marriage. So, okay, now that I know what it is, I can let it go. And that's basically when I go into channeling in the seance room. He helps with the physical energies to readjust into healing. And then John comes in and will often tell about past memories that you probably haven't remembered, that they're still coming to the surface in your illness for you to identify, so you can now finally release it. So what you don't know can finally come up, and you can understand what it is. And we've had people immediately say, oh, is that what it is? And that's what happened with Rosanna and her problem when she was supposedly going to be dying, when she found out what the past memories were. It made sense to her completely immediately what was going on with her. And the other part is emotionally, John will give you often information that on your current life which supports that healing that you're trying to accomplish. So one of the things that's often said is to get a Casey castor oil pack. Seems to be a solution for quite a few things. People come with different physical problems, and a castor oil pack is very practical, helps the energy to flow. So those are just a few of the suggestions that John has for people when they come. So as you're learning to look at yourself and become aware of where is this coming from, when I go to bed at night, I keep saying, okay, God, what do I still need to know? Because it hasn't stopped coming yet since I started. I still keep getting answers and still working on it. I really enjoy helping people to heal their lives, and I became a spiritual minister through a woman who taught me how to address this on a basis for counseling, and also do readings at the time. That was part of what we did in the class. So I'm also a member of the International Board for Regression Therapy, because I do regressions with people, and I'm also on the American Board of Hypnotherapy. And I have a website, a blog, and other. My channelings are on YouTube. If you're interested, I have a newsletter. And so there's a lot of ways to find out more about me if you just Google my name, in fact. But Mack and I have been doing this for quite a few years, and we enjoy it, and we love to have people come. And if you're looking for help, I think that we've had some really interesting stories. We've even had discarnate entities show up Darcy knows that want to be helped over to the other side. We've had all kinds of interesting experiences in that room. It's a marvelous room if you haven't been in the seance room. So thank you for having us here today, and if you're interested in healing, give us a jingle on Wednesday nights so we know that you're here. He comes from Normandy Park, and it's a little bit of a drive if nobody's going to be here, and he came for nothing. So we like to know ahead of time that you're going to be here, and we'll definitely show up too. So thank you for having us here today, and I'm glad that we're all of the spiritual nature. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Marilyn, for sharing. You heard